Welcome everyone to our Fireside chat today about different career paths in tech. My name is Gabby Teng and I'm a member of the C# team. Very happy to be here today. I'm sitting in Amsterdam currently and we are remarkably actually have some sunshine after a few weeks of crazy weather. We've had rain, hail, sunshine, all kinds of weather in one day. It's been mad. But right now it's sunny, and as a native Australian, I'm just hoping that some more warmth comes our way. But you know what? I'd really love to know more about you. So if you're able to, please drop a comment about where you're coming from, because I love to know where everyone in the world is at the moment. Helps me get to know you a bit in this crazy virtual world time. So if you have a chance, please write in the comments where you're sitting at the moment. Do we have anyone coming through? All right. Well, I can see we've still got a few people, maybe people late, but if you get a chance, tell us where you're from and I'll give you a shout out. So our talk today is about taking different career paths in tech. And personally, I think this is an incredibly fascinating topic. I've been in, we've got someone from Ireland. Welcome, Penny. So I actually think this is a fascinating topic. I've been in tech for I studied about 20 years ago. It's been that long now. And when I first started, as far as I knew, there was one thing you did. You studied a degree, you studied a Bachelor of Computer Science or Engineering and became a developer. And for me, that was the only thing I knew. And then during my experience in this world is that I've suddenly learned there are all these incredible other roles that I've never heard of. I'm hearing about new ones every single day. In the last year, I've heard of at least 5 to 10 by meeting people in this community alone. And I recognize that there are so many different ways to get into it. And from talking to a lot of you, I can understand that a lot of you are in the same place that I was all that time ago, where I didn't know what the options were. And so I'm really excited today that I'm going to have this chat with a few amazing women from Elastic who we're partnering with about this talk today, to hear about their journeys, because I find them really inspirational to hear about. But before I move on, I want to just share a little bit about C#. So I'm part of a team called the C# team. We are a non-profit organization based in the Netherlands, and our mission is to foster diversity and inclusion in technology and entrepreneurship by providing an open and safe community for underrepresented demographics to explore their interests and potential. So there are a few ways that you can get involved with us or connect to our community, and they're here. Our Slack community is relatively new. We're small, but very exciting place to be. So please join as soon as possible. Very easy to get to, csharp.co/Slack. But also we've got events on Meetup. You can find us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Please join us and find out what we're all about. And then if you would like to be slightly more involved, we do ask for volunteers who are interested in talking. We host a lot of events just like this one for our community and outside. And if you're interested in talking and have something you'd like to talk about, please let us know. Alternatively, if you're from a company and are interested in partnering with us, also get in touch. And I just want to put it in there, we do have a code of conduct. So if you're attending one of our events or speaking at them, we do ask that you abide by that. But now I wanted to tell you a little bit more about Elastic. So Elastic actually, a company that we're partnering with, and they're a search company based on a free and open heritage. And so that means everyone can get started with Elastic products and solutions quickly and frictionlessly. So Elastic offers 3 solutions for enterprise search, observability, and security based on one technology stack that can be deployed anywhere. From finding documents to monitoring infrastructure to hunting for threats, Elastic makes data usable in real time and at scale. Founded in 2012, Elastic is a completely distributed company with elasticians all around the globe. Now, if you've worked with something to do with Elastic, personally, I've had one of my teams in engineering, we had great value using Elasticsearch, which is a really highly performant, incredibly flexible search option to use. So some of you may have come across that too. But now I'm going to introduce you to our wonderful speakers. So welcome. Today we have Elyssa and Priscilla. So Elyssa is a manager of the community team, and Priscilla is a developer advocate. So welcome both of you. Thank you for joining me today. Really excited to have this chat with you. What I'd love to begin with is if you could both give a short introduction about yourself, and perhaps tell us where you're from, because we love to know that too, and a fun fact if you can share one.
Well, I'll go first. First of all, hello everybody, and thanks for having us here. So my name's Elyssa. I'm from Wisconsin, which is in the United States. It's a pretty rural state. If you haven't heard of it, it's okay. We're known for our cheese curds. And one fun fact about me, about a year ago, I summited my first mountain, and actually got to do that with 11 of my fellow elasticians. So that's what we call ourselves through our volunteer time off program. And so I climbed Mount Kenya, which is located in Kenya. It's the second tallest mountain in Africa. So, yes.
Wow, that's incredible. Thanks, Elyssa. And Priscilla.
So my name is Priscilla Parodi. I live in Brazil. I'm from Brazil. I was born here. So more specifically in Santos, São Paulo state. I am an advocate for Elastic, just trying to summarize what it is for those who might want more information about it. Being an advocate, it means that I like to be the bridge of the company and the community. So when I say community, I say also the students, the startups, companies, and all of you that are using Elastic. So by listening to everything that you need and to understand everything that you want, and then on our side to implement it by creating new programs, for example, and scheduling meetups and everything for you to have some fun with us. So a fun fact about me, I would say that my first prize, my first recognition was not as an IT professional, but as an actress.
So interesting. So tell me more about that, Priscilla. How did you know that you wanted to get in tech? You wanted to be an actress, first of all? What happened?
So, yes, I was shy when I was young. And then talking to my parents, and when they started to talk with some friends, they were like, maybe acting class might help her. So I was like, yeah, so I'll do that. I hate it when I started, honestly, because there are many people and they were all interacting with each other and many games together. And I was like, oh, cool. Then I need to do something different. But then I ended up loving it because it was the place where I could be who I am, and I could be someone else also for a few hours at least. So I could learn about different personalities. I could study, I could read, I could understand people's behaviors, and then also teamwork, and then all this interactions and art experience and culture really makes me proud about, because then I could improve also as a human being. So it was important. But then answering your question, how I end up in tech, it was something that I like it, but I never considered it as a profession. And I would also mention that theater was not considered a profession. Also, I was like, I really like it. I was not thinking about money. I was thinking about things that I like. So I considered it I was like, oh, I would try TV. I would try something else, because I was just going to theaters and presenting. So, but then I found out that I would say the importance of giving up. So then I gave up one time. I was like, maybe this is not exactly what I want. My purpose is clear. My values are also clear, but then the goals might change, and then it changed. So that's why then I found out that IT was something that could be also a career and something good for me to do, and something that is also and can be aligned with my values and purpose. So that's why I'm here.
That's amazing. Thanks for sharing that. And I see one of your colleagues posted a comment, Anna, saying she didn't know you wanted to be an actress. So even your colleagues and the elasticians are still finding out new facts about you. That's great. And Elyssa, how did you get into tech?
Yeah, well, first I just want to say, I think acting is such an important skill for a role as a community advocate, because you do have to be very comfortable presenting to an audience, and Priscilla does an amazing job at that. But I come from a very different side of the coin of kind of what you described earlier about, you really thought that with tech you had to have a degree in a technical field. And, I initially had like no desire to get into tech. I do not have a technical background. The main motivation for me getting into tech was actually, I ended up moving to the West Coast from Wisconsin. And most people, they move to the Bay Area to, Silicon Valley to get into tech. I moved there because I just wanted to get out of Wisconsin. And my brother had actually gotten a job at Google in developer relations. So very similar role to what Priscilla has. Before that, I'd never heard of developer relations. And so when I moved out there, I was looking at applying for jobs, and I kind of came across Elastic. It was actually the first company that I applied to. Wasn't the only company. I applied to a lot, got a lot of rejections. But I think the thing that I was able to do is, one, the fact that the job description, a lot of the skills were things that I had done previously. So I was very surprised. Like, yes, there's jobs out there that don't require a technical background, although like a lot of the job applications do say it's nice to have. So don't let that like totally turn you off to applying for a job. But I think what really helped me is very different from my previous job. But some of the things, in a developer relations community role that you need to have are, event management. You plan a lot of different community events. I was the chair of the events committee at my previous job, so I had a lot of experience that I could transfer there. Part of my volunteering was I helped plan this organization's annual conference, was on their steering committee. So that piece right there, again, was something I did on the side. And I think in community work, that's something that a lot of people will look at is like, how are you engaging with your own community? So that was kind of my first thing was, what skills do I have? Can I transfer over to this? And then the kind of other piece of it is when I was applying for Elastic, I kind of came down to two jobs. One was like very similar to what I had wanted to, or my previous job. And then one was, which was not in tech. And then there was Elastic. And I think what really drew me to Elastic, and especially a startup, I was, I think, 250 employees when I joined, was I just felt like there's no ceiling on like what I could do. I loved, compared to my other job of like 9 to 5. Here, I could set my own schedule. I had this flexibility. So that really is what attracted to me to tech, and I think is one of the awesome things about working in this industry. But despite all that, I think, the reality was like I really did have to stand out in the application process. And so it's kind of an interesting story I like to share is that when I first was applying with Elastic, I had just gotten done with my phone interview with the recruiter. So first time I ever talked to them. And she called me back later the day and she was like, hey, we have a meetup going on in San Francisco tonight. And I plan to be there. There's other elasticians that are going to be there, come and meet the team, hear about what Elastic is. And I don't know if people here are familiar with the Bay Area, but I was living in San Jose, and the distance from San Jose to San Francisco, it's like an hour. And then if you factor in rush hour, it's a long distance. And keep in mind, I come from Wisconsin. I came from a town of 700 people. Like I had just moved there 2 weeks earlier. I was definitely afraid. I was like, how am I supposed to get up to San Francisco? And I ended up taking the Caltrain. So didn't have to drive, which was nice, but never been on the Caltrain. And so I get there, I find where it is, it's at the LinkedIn office in downtown San Francisco. And I get there and the recruiter, she wasn't there. She was stuck in traffic. And so I kind of, get up to this place where there's all these people. And, I just sat down next to one of the people there. And I said, this is, I'm here because I'm looking for a job. And so I got talking, I'm like, tell me about Elastic. Tell me what you like about this community, because I think that is one of the really important things about, I see the question coming in, like, what does developer relations do? And like, a lot of it is, planning community events, giving opportunities to engage face-to-face with users of the technology. And so meetups are a perfect example of what we do. And so it was really great that I had this opportunity to see what that was like. And, one, like I just want to reference, like I was scared. I was really scared to go up there, but I think it really paid off. I met with a recruiter. I met with other people from Elastic, and it just really made me it's like, these are people I could really see myself working with in a community I was interested in. So that's, and again, I think because of the fact that I didn't have necessarily the exact experience in tech, putting yourself out there and just showing and proving yourself is really important, like an interview process. So that's essentially how I got into tech, and I've been with Elastic ever since. So yeah, that's how I'm here today.
What a great story. And I think I find it really inspiring to hear that you say, perhaps you didn't have the tech background or degree, but you could see that the skills mapped to things you've done before and you applied it. And perhaps it is a little bit harder to sort of get your foot in the door, but it's not impossible. And I think, at least for myself, I know it's quite hard to sort of see a job description and think, okay, I don't meet everything in it. Even though I think maybe I could do it, but it just feels like that's a barrier. So that's really great to hear that that was not, it wasn't an issue for you in the end.
Yeah.
That's a great tale. Thanks. And Priscilla, I think I saw someone before post like, what is developer relations? And I've got to say, actually, this is one of the areas which I've only become aware of in the last year. I think perhaps it's been around for a really long time and I've just been very out of the loop, but I'd love to hear more about you and your role and what does that actually mean?
Yeah, of course. So basically, we are part of this area. So we have some, of course, Elyssa is our manager here for the NAS region. There are other regions, there are other people that work with programs and literally organizing the events and all the bureaucratic stuff related. And also people that like me, for example, I speak at conferences, I prepare some content. So it depends, of course. But basically, as Elyssa mentioned, it is about the interaction with these people, our users. And by understanding them, we can provide something better. So we can, for example, sponsor a better event, something that is aligned with their goals. Also, we can also understand what they want from the community. So if they want support, if they want someone else to talk about. So it is about community itself. So it is about building a community and building a community inside a company, I would say. So a community of people that are using your tools, but where you can just sit and talk about all of the stuff, also everything that they're doing, to understand what they want, to understand their goals, and to also translate it into something that the company can literally execute and implement as something else and something new to engage them and to create something good for them also.
Yeah, that's great. And when you say community, I think I heard you say internal. So is that is your community the developers within, or the whole tech community within Elastic, or external?
Yeah, it's external.
Okay.
Actually, I consider, at least, and this is my opinion, but I think this is something that we share. Like, we all are part of the same community. So our engineers are also part of our community. Our marketing team also. So we all are part of this big community. So I also consider internal an important part, because if internal are not engaged, then how can you possibly engage people that are outside? So I think this is something important also. But yeah, I'm talking about the community itself. So all of you that are using, if you start using now, you're part of our community, then welcome.
That's great. Thanks for clarifying that. And yeah, I completely agree, actually, when you say the internal community, or the people who work for Elastic still have the same needs. And did you always, and Priscilla, like following on from that, did you always know that you wanted to be an advocate? What was your journey like to get here?
Not really. I never heard about it actually before actually being part of this team. But I would just briefly try to summarize my experience, so like how I end up being an advocate. But it is different, I would say. Like, I started as a developer at my past job at IBM, being part of an internship program. So I started as a developer. 3 months after, I was a program manager associate. So a developer, but caring about the management staff, so projects, documents, monitoring everything that was going on, tracking progress, financial information, etc. So and then by being part of this team, I heard about new possibilities and heard about Watson and the artificial intelligence there, machine learning more specifically. Then I tried to play with some stuff and like it. And then there was a hackathon. And hackathon, again, usually the DevRel team is responsible for organizing it. So that's how. But then there was a hackathon, and they wanted someone with some Watson skills and machine learning skills, and they were like, I can help with something, like I can just try to help somehow. And then they were like, yeah, we need someone. And then they liked me. I heard that I supported the person that ended up being my manager without knowing. So then he hired me, invited me to be the advocate for IBM Cloud at that moment, and IBM Watson. And then I started in this journey, but then it ended up with more opportunities, like being part of a new team called Reach New Clients team, with also an advocate approach. So also understanding the clients, the new goals, what they wanted, talking to startups, providing mentorship. So I was like part of both areas. And then when I was invited to join Elastic, it was also a good opportunity for me to develop more abilities, to build something new, to know another community, and to join this team, like to literally be part of something pretty new. So I really like it. But yeah, I never thought about it. So it was something that just ended up this way.
I think for a lot of us, some of these opportunities just come by chance, and you discover them, and it turns out to be a great opportunity. So that's really interesting to hear how you ended up there. So I want to get back to you, Elyssa. You're a people manager, is that right?
Yes. Okay. I currently lead the North and South America community team. So it's made up of advocates like Priscilla, and then also program managers. Okay.
And did you always know that you wanted to be a people manager?
No. Similar to like the story about like getting into tech, it's not something I really planned for. And, I think that's kind of has that importance, similar to what you just said about, a lot of times these opportunities come unexpectedly. And I think though, but you got to also be prepared for those opportunities to come up. And I think that's where I often, for my experience, particularly, I joined Elastic right before there was a lot of high growth. We went like in a year or two after I joined, we went up to 1,000 employees from 250. So with that comes a lot of opportunities. And so I think that's where, I was very fortunate to be able to, our team was growing, and there was a need for somebody to come in and lead. And so initially I led a global team of program managers. And so I started with 3 people reporting to me, and then grew to 9. So I think through that process, it's, initially I really wanted to focus on program management, but I also really liked the idea of like team dynamics. So I kind of like, all right, put myself out there. Like I told my manager at the time, like I was interested in taking on this opportunity. And, I think I learned a lot. Like now, if someone asks me what's my favorite part of my job, it's working with people. It's working with the team. And so it's good to be, I think, introspective of like, what are your interests? What are the things that, you enjoy doing? And then when these opportunities come along, you can be prepared to an extent to say, all right, yes, this is an opportunity that's going to help. I have the skills for, or it's going to help me achieve the skills that I want to. So yeah, I definitely don't regret it. I'm glad that I took on an opportunity that wasn't initially in my plans.
Yeah. Okay. It sounds like it's been a really positive change, and it's really interesting about the management part, because I think a lot of us, and I've done people management myself, and it has been an opportunity presented itself, and you've taken it on, and then this love of working with people, I think you either have it or you don't have it. But when you have it, it can be so fulfilling. Although I don't know if you share similar experiences, but very challenging at the same time in many cases.
Yes. Yeah. I think going from 3 to 9 people was really challenging, but and I think overall it's just, and at Elastic, I'll just say we kind of have 2 career paths. We have a people management, we have individual contributor. And I think, we've kind of removed that stigma too of, hey, if you want to try out people management, that's great. But if it's not for you, kind of having them at the same level. Because I think there's a lot of times this feeling of like, oh, if I want to advance my career, if I want to get to that next level, I have to go into people management, and you don't have to. But it's really nice to see like that is an opportunity.
Yeah, I'm going to jump in. We've got a question from Alex here. Do you think that people management in tech differs greatly from other industries? And what qualities do you think makes you particularly successful as a people manager in tech?
I think people management, there's certain skills that you have to have no matter what industry you're in. The ability to, be empathetic, to be understanding, to be patient, to be able to, interact with people, and because that's a big part of your job. And so I do think a lot of those skills are transferable. Of course, I think the big differences that I experienced, coming from I was in previously like in a legal field. So coming to the tech field, it was, I think, especially being on a distributed team. Like, I think, often, we're seeing, of course, with the pandemic, a lot of people are going to remote, but I think tech was really kind of a leader in that area of people working remotely or distributed. Like at Elastic, I think we're in like 40 plus countries. And so one of those things that is really important is, building trust when you're not all in the same room. And so one part of that, I think, to build trust is, being open to feedback. Like, feedback has been the number one thing that I feel is really being successful as a manager, is being open to it, being willing to, provide it. And I think that leads to building that trust of like, okay, I know that the employee, or I have the trust in my team that, they can work autonomously, that they can, take leadership over their own projects. They also have the trust in me that I'm going to be able to provide support and guidance, and be able to help them be successful. So I think, I would say it's not a huge difference, but there definitely is, depending on like the working environment, different things to consider.
Yeah, great answer. Thanks, Elyssa. Feedback is, I've got to say, it's something that I didn't learn about until a bit later in my career, and the value of it is huge. I don't know, I'd love to hear maybe both your thoughts on this. I do find that it's quite hard. People love the idea of feedback, but giving it, especially when it might be perceived as potentially negative, is a lot harder to either receive or give. How do you both approach that, actually?
I can go first on that one. Mm-hmm. I think we have to recognize that we're humans, that our initial response when we hear something that we might not like or we might not be aware of is to be, defensive. I think we all do that. And one is just recognizing that. And I think the ability to, be open and minded. And I think also like setting the right circumstances, something at Elastic that we have is like quarterly conversation. So it kind of creates that space where we can talk about, over the past 3 months, what are some like general feedback. Of course, I'm a huge fan of timely feedback. So, if it's relevant to a certain situation, don't wait until that quarterly conversation. But again, it's so much built on trust. So, just being very open with those conversations of like, I'm sharing this feedback because, or this is my perception, because I think there's always that fear as a manager that the feedback that you're sharing is, there's bias around it, or there's a perception around it that is not true. And so it's just kind of being like, let's have this open conversation, is really important. And so kind of, I would say one, like creating the right space for that, building that trust is foundational to having those conversations. And then two, would be the feedback, like if you're receiving feedback, having that open mind to be like, okay, I might not want to hear some of this, but I trust that who's telling me this is doing it with a good intention.
That's great. Thanks, Elyssa. Priscilla, do you have any thoughts on it?
Yeah, I completely agree. I think trust is really important, but also we need to be open to understand what's going on. I really like feedbacks. I think they're valid because then we can understand what's going on, maybe that we can't see by ourselves. Like we are not seeing the whole situation, the whole interaction, everything that's going on. And there are other people that are able to share. And even not being a manager, it is good also to share feedbacks. Even if you're leading a project initiative, it is good to share with the others like what's going on. So to not wait until like the best moment, the best meeting, or the best situation, but to provide it when you can, like, and also to start telling the people and to start understanding the situation, and then to proceed with the formal feedback, or if you want to add something new, because sometimes there is something that you misunderstood, or that you needs more clarification, and it is not exactly what you think, and then you can also learn with the situation, but it is always neat and important, at least in my opinion.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. It's definitely always needed. And I suppose if you've got the structures in place, if you do it on a regular basis, it helps. Because I've got to say, sometimes it takes practice sort of get in the habit of giving it and feeling comfortable doing it. I want to jump back a bit because I was so interested in the career paths you've taken. So like personally, I've done all kinds of roles. I've been a developer. I then was a Scrum Master, a people manager, an Agile coach. Then I went back to engineering manager, Agile coach again, program manager. Now I'm a technical program manager. So I know that each time I've had these opportunities or like slight switches, because it hasn't really been a really straight line, I've sort of struggled a bit on deciding which direction to take. And it sounds like you both might have had similar situations at times. I'd sort of like to know how did you approach that?
You want me to start?
Sure, go ahead. So,
okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So I'll tell my experience. I think and sometimes you need to choose. Actually, most of the times, even if you are not choosing, there's something else that you are not doing and the other thing that you are. So I think that in our careers, basically like that. So things will happen. You need to be prepared. You need to study. You need to understand like what exactly you want. I like to imagine me like what are exactly, and I think this is something that we all can do and practice. And I'm sure that you're doing it, but just to understand exactly what you want as a human being. So your values, things that you can't say no. So things that you really trust, that you really believe are the right thing to do. And then to align the other things and the goals. So goals might change, but who you are as a person, as a human being, shouldn't. At least you should think about this alignment. So then the career path, the opportunities and everything just will go and go, but then it will be always aligned with the person you are, instead of some moments or situations, and then that you can lose control of the situation and of everything that is going on, because it is not aligned with the person you are.
That's great advice. Stay true to your values. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll second that. You know, being very introspective, self-aware of what the things you value is really important. And just to give kind of an example of, looking at my past. I mean, when I was coming out of college, I was kind of I was broke. I had no money. I was very much like, I'm going to take the first job that is offered to me. And so it's very much like in this panic mode. And I think, I found myself a couple of years into the job that, I was in a better situation. I had, a couple of years of experience under my belt, saving up some money. And so that's when I made the decision to quit my job and move out to the West Coast. And part of that, process was I wanted to take a break. Like I told myself I want at least a month break to where I can take the time I want to write down what are the things what are my interests? What are the things I want to have an impact on? And then I can, and of course, looking at the skills that I have, what skills do I want to build? And going through that mental process of really just, learning about yourself. I think everybody should take that time, and that I felt like put me in a better place to get that job with Elastic. Like the story I told earlier is, so that would be kind of my recommendation as far as if you are kind of uncertain where you want to go next or what opportunities, like that, taking that time even if, you don't quit your job like I did, but just, really focusing on what are those things, because when those opportunities come up, you can refer back to that and say, all right, yes, this is an opportunity that I feel comfortable taking, even if it wasn't, exactly what you envisioned you'd be doing.
Yeah. Yeah, that's such a good point. Being prepared, I suppose, for anything and ready for those situations. That's great. So what have been the biggest challenges that you faced in your careers so far? Elyssa, actually.
Sure. Yeah, I'll go. Yes.
Yeah.
Well, I'll just say at the time, I definitely thought that when I quit my job, that was the biggest challenge. But it was the best decision I think that I ever made. Yeah. But I would say, really thinking of like the most challenging has been, I think, just being part of a high growth company. I mean, I'll like, again, those couple years where we're growing from 250 to 1,000 employees, I felt like I was surfing on a wave. Like it was such a great feeling of, being able to grow really fast, and it's just very exciting time. But, with that, it becomes really challenging to think of, especially as a manager, and if you're thinking of like the programs you're developing and how you're growing your team, it is a challenging thing of like, all right, well, we finally have this pause. We kind of plateaued a little bit after we've had this high growth, and there's changes that are inevitable, and how you kind of grow your team to be sustainable. I think that's one of the things that I think what makes it challenging is, well, it's something new. It's a change that you have to go through and prepare for and respond to, but also that there's a lot of people, I think, end up, leaving a company after you kind of get through that startup phase, because it's so exciting. I mean, they really miss that feeling of, that high growth feeling. And so I think it is one of the more challenging to stick through it and kind of get through it and really, build a sustainable team. So I think that's been one of the more challenging things, because it really requires you to, again, sit down and think about the future. Because, thinking back the past couple of years, I was very much like reactive, and now it's really that opportunity. But the challenge is, how do you be proactive when you're trying to like build out this community? So yeah, to me, that's been one of the more challenging pieces.
Interesting. Thanks. Priscilla, what's yours?
Yeah, so I really like challenge. So I think, I completely agree. I think we as human beings, we like challenge, we like something new to execute, to think about another solution, to think about other problems and other things that are happening, how to fix it. And I think there are always things to do, even if it is not something new, like another company or another project or something else, there's always something to improve, something to do. So I consider these also challenge, small challenge. They're always happening, like how to fix it, how to improve what I am doing right now. So I always like to even find this challenge. If they don't exist right now, I like to find something new to do, to execute, and to see if I can implement different things. But I would say that it also motivates me, as Elyssa said, so this is very important. We are not always in the same mood or with the same emotion. So it is also important to understand that if it is not a challenge, if it is something difficult, if it is not something that is motivating you, it is also a challenge for you to keep going. So to keep doing what you are doing until you get there. So to the new challenge, the new project, the new initiative comes up for you to do. I would mention that soft skills are really important. And if I need to choose just one challenge, like it was, I think, actually, the soft skills itself were all then like things that I needed to learn as a person, as a human being, to improve. It was very important, and my challenge, I would say, that came from there. So, for example, when I first started being part of the internship program at IBM, I was like a young person that was choosing, and then choices are really important, that I was choosing to prioritize the job instead of university for a while. And it was my choice because I was really, this is what I want to do right now. I was sad because when you have two options and good options, this is difficult for you to decide. And I had it many times, but then it was a choice. and it was also a challenge. But also as a human being part of this program, I had an experience that I would say that it was the first one being part of a company, of a big company, like being part of this internship. And I remember the day very specifically because I was going to the company. And I was like, just to summarize how it works there. So this internship program at IBM, how it works, but it is basically like you start working. So you start learning and working. And I was hired to the internship program as a Java developer. But then when you're hired, you need to be hired by the company itself to get your promotion. So by a project. And then before it happens and before the situation that I will just share, there was a manager that called me. I think it was about 3 months after I started, so it was fast. We have usually 1 year. And then he said, like, are you willing to accept a management position? And then I was like, seriously? I don't think it makes sense, but I can try, of course. Let's go with it. And then I was loving it. Everything was perfect. I was like learning different things. It was a completely new situation, something that I was not expecting. I was really happy with the Java position, but then I found out that I was happy with this management position. And I think I am happy with all of them when I can find new challenges and new things to do. I'm a problem solver, so this is what motivates me. So I was really happy at that time. But then I received a call from the HR saying that someone called the HR program, someone from the internship, saying that I was hired as a manager, and I couldn't at that time because I was an intern, and then it was not allowed because we need to wait a year, etc. So I was like, oh, I will lose my job, and then what will happen? And then because it was not my choice, I mean, I accepted, but it was not my choice. And then I was like, I need to improve. I need to learn. I have this ability. Like I went through many things in my life that I have this ability to stop and to not answer fast. So I was like, okay, I need to understand. I'm not going, and I don't want to, like, who is the responsible, who did that, who called, etc. But I want to improve as a person. Of course, I cried. I was like, oh my God, everything. I would just, because even if they chose to, for example, just leave the position open and then ask me to find another one to be hired for another project, then it will be like a highlight in my resume saying like, oh, this person was hired for a position that. So I was like, oh, this is something bad. But then I had a perfect manager. I would say he was also my first mentor. And then he was like with me all the time and saying like, just don't worry, things like that happens all the time. It is not your fault. So you need to understand, and you don't need to blame someone. So you need to also understand that things happen. They have their own priorities, everything that don't assume a list, but also don't feel afraid to be yourself. So if you trust that this is the thing that you want to do, if you trust me and if I chose you, so this is because I want you here. I want you to work with me. So then the solution was that for a long time, I was like 50% of my time PMA and 50% of my time a developer. It was really funny, but it was a challenge also because I needed to do both things. And it was important because I ended up doing two things, I think, most of the times in my career. So it was something, that's why I consider soft skills really important, because there are many, literally. But today, I think that I am proud that I can wait, understand the situation, not blame anyone, but also understand like my situation, like what I can do to improve as a human being. So I try to practice it all the time.
Yeah, that's amazing. Thanks for sharing that story. It sounds like you've had quite a lot of challenges in your career. And actually, I love what you're saying about soft skills. I actually read, I think it was an article the other day that said we shouldn't, like, calling them soft skills make them seem not as difficult as you know, like hard skills, and really they're human skills and learning skills and so much more. And I thought, I mean, I know we've got these phrases for things, but I'm all on board with that. I think those kinds of skills are some of the most difficult. I see we have a question, so I want to ask it. And also, if anyone else has any questions, please throw them in the comments and we'll have them pop up and ask them. So Eleni has asked, what is the most rewarding thing about your jobs, Priscilla and Elyssa? So I'll go to you, Elyssa, first, if that's okay.
Yeah. So I think the most rewarding, so I kind of look at two stages, like before I was a people manager and after, although like they kind of have the same thing. It's working with people. I think before I was a people manager, working with the community, I worked very closely with the community. Our awesome community organizers, people I would meet at events who were using Elastic, and I think just hearing from them, hearing their stories of like how they're using the technology, how it's helped them, make their lives easier. That's definitely like the more rewarding thing is being able to hear those stories. And then, as a people manager, especially again with Elastic, we have now we've kind of regionally structured our team. We still work very closely with the whole global community team, and I love learning from every individual on the team, about like where they're from, like what about their culture, if I go and visit, they're teaching me language. Like one of our Priscilla and I, as a colleague who's also from Brazil, like introduced me to brigadeiros, and it's like one of the like the different, which I love. Like I'm obsessed with them now. So yeah, that's probably the two kind of rewarding things that I would mention, is just getting to know people and learn from people has been amazing.
It's wonderful. And Priscilla.
Yeah, and I think it is a characteristic of our team. Like we like to work with people, at least based on the last email. Elyssa also adds a bonus question for us to answer. So it is something about our life, something that we like, and then we share with each other. So then she asked about possible other professions, and then some answers was about being a doctor, a physician, or nurse, or anyway, things like that. So it was like all about human. So which is important, because I think like for every position, like we are working at companies, but we are working with humans, with people, and they have their own private life, they have their own things to deal with. So we need to kind of understand people in order to understand what you do, and in order to also love our job, because we're always working with people. So what I like is this feeling of and this gratitude also of being a part of their lives, also to understand what's going on, what they're enjoying, what they can do, as another human being to make their lives easier. And I think it is not just about community, but we can apply it to all the areas, like being a salesperson. And I was part of the sales team for a while, being a salesperson, but also recognizing and understanding them as people, and not just as clients and numbers. This is important. And I think this is like just being me. Like this is not something that I accept to change. So this is my personality. So, but this is something that motivates me, and being part of the community team, it is easy to talk to people, to also understand their situations, their life. So this is something really cool, and I like to be part of.
That's awesome. Thanks. So Priscilla, before I heard you mention something about a mentor, I was just wondering, sort of in that line, what are the sort of things that either people or resources that have helped you get to where you are today?
Everything. I think all of them, actually, even if they weren't mentors. I mean, I have mentors nowadays, but every single people, all of them, they were all important. Like all of them, literally, because I learned from all of them all the time, even if they don't know it, and most of the time they don't. But every time that something is going on, that there's a situation, a new project, a new idea, something they're sharing. Even Ricardo is here, so something that he wrote, things like that, I use these times to also understand and to learn from these people, like what they are think, what they prefer, what they like. And I think it improved me also as a person. But I would really recommend mentors. I think it is important, because we are living, I mean, the same life here right now. So, and we have our own goals, we have everything that we want to accomplish, but I'm sure we all are trying to do our best, or what we consider our best. So as human beings, we have our own experiences, things that we learned, and I think it is valid for us to share with each other what you're learning and what you learned and how to improve, and experiences we had, even everything that I'm sharing right now. Maybe for me is some random stuff that maybe doesn't matter, but maybe for someone it might be valid, like someone that is experiencing the same situation. So I think this interaction and this sharing is very important, and it was essential for my career. Like all of the people that I worked with, including my mentors, and I can mention names, but I don't want to do that because all of them were important. But Alex, the first manager I had, he was my first mentor also. But and then I should mention him, as I already mentioned it.
That's great. And on the mentors, I've recently explored that area. And actually, just a slight plug for this, we had a mentorship program with C# at the end of last year, and looking to restart that again. So if that's something anyone listening is interested in, keep your eyes out. Elyssa, did you have anything else to add to that?
I think, I 100% agree. Mentors are very much important. I do want to, for me personally, I think I struggled with finding mentors, mostly just because like I am very like, I don't want to take people's time. I don't want to like be a burden on them. And so I think that idea of like, I'm not even going to ask because like, I'm afraid to, I definitely went through that, especially in my earlier years. And I think I've become more comfortable of like, it's just ask, obviously, they can say no if they don't have time for it. But I think on the flip side of that too, as now I'm getting more experience in my career, I want to make sure that I'm making myself available and accessible to people who are maybe looking for mentorship, because I know in my position. So I think it's awesome that like organizations like C# is providing those, kind of facilitating those connections. At Elastic, we did for a while, there'd have a kind of a mentorship program where you could sign up and then you'd get automatically assigned to someone. I thought having those type of things in place for people who may be nervous or shy to ask for, reach out to people for mentorship. So I think is important.
Thanks. And yeah, it really is about finding the right person. It's not just about anyone, so it can take some time. It's a really good point. It looks like we have a question from Aaron. So what advice would you give for someone who is entering the technology sector from a different industry in terms of explaining transferable skills and the value that you can bring to a company?
I think Elyssa is the best person to.
Should I go for that one?
Yeah.
I know. Yeah. I think again, I think it's just really important to sit down, like, even if it's just like, I literally had a pen and paper when I was doing this, and being, looking at the job descriptions and seeing what skills that they're looking for, and, being able to kind of identify, the skills that I had to offer. And so I think, it's really important to look at that piece, and, also just remembering that, the skills are not always necessarily like ones that you've gotten from previous jobs. Like, if you're involved in different organizations, what is your involvement with the community? I think specifically I can talk about like, I've interviewed a lot of people at my time at Elastic for roles. And one of the things I really look at is, for a community role is like, how are they contributing to their, the groups that they, are a part of. And I think that was something that is really important for a community role. But I guess just to, kind of show that value, just also being like very, I think, direct in the point of like, if you feel like there is a gap from what the role that you're applying to versus what your skills are, or there might not be a direct connection there, is to take some time to explain it. Like, I think, adding in there, like, this is, I might not have the exact skills for this, but this is kind of, what my experience is, or my interest, or what drives me to, kind of grow into that position. I think the more time you take on that, like hiring managers, again, not all hiring managers are the same, so I don't want to blanket it, but I know for a fact, if somebody included that within a resume, I would very much like enjoy hearing kind of the individual's perspective on how they plan to fill that gap, or just providing a little bit more explanation in that area. So yeah, I would say just in simple terms, one, like, do a comparison. Here's the job description. Here's the skills. What are those skills like can match up with what is there? And then I think the other part is showing that value, like, again, getting involved in their community. I mean, we've hired a lot of people that have contributed to the Elastic community who are now a part of the company. And I think, again, that builds relationships with people. It makes those connections. But again, like me going to that meetup early on, like, I don't think I would have been hired if I didn't kind of go out of my comfort zone and, show them that I was willing to kind of, go that extra step to engage with the community before I even was offered a job. So that helps.
Great. Thanks for that advice. Okay, we don't have a lot of time left. I've got like one more question, but I just wanted to say to our audience, we are going to send out, I think we'll add a link in the comments or something about a survey that we'd love you to fill out. Talking about feedback, we also want feedback as an organization. We want to ensure that the events and everything that we're providing here are actually valuable to you all, and we want to know how we can improve. So I'd really appreciate it. I think it only takes a few minutes to fill out. So if you have a second, please share your feedback with us. But we've just got a few minutes left, and I just want to ask, well, actually, it's going to be two more questions, but one only that you have to really deeply think about. And that is really just simply, I think you've given us a lot of really, like, I've felt really inspired by this conversation. I think we've had a lot of good advice about how to get into tech, how to approach changing your career direction, what skills are really important and what can help us grow. So, but do you, like, it doesn't have to be long, but just what is one piece of advice that you'd like to share with our community today?
I can go first.
Elyssa? I should say who.
My piece of advice would get involved with the community. Again, kind of similar to like the advice I gave prior is, making those connections. It's, building community is all about building relationships and, so yes, I think, going to community events, obviously I can't wait till we get back to in-person events. But, really kind of putting yourself out there in those outside of those comfort zones is really important. So yeah, I think just to keep it simple, like, get involved with the community, start talking to people is really important.
Amazing. Thanks, Elyssa. And Priscilla?
Yeah, I would say that everything is a learning experience. So even if it is success, even if it is failure, so you're always learning, and try to learn, because sometimes it was a bad situation. So I don't want you to think about it. I don't want you to understand what happened. It was just something bad. But even from bad situations, we can learn something new and you can understand. So I think this is important. I would also say for you all to try to understand you as a person, as a human being, like what exactly you want. Because sometimes, and I already heard people saying like, I can't find, like, for example, my purpose here, or working here, for example, or working somewhere else, or I can't literally understand me as a human being. Maybe I should be a physician and help people to understand and to know that I am helping people. But I don't think this is really true, because there are other ways to help people that is not just as a physician. For example, you can also be able, as Elyssa mentioned it, like being open to mentoring, and then to be able to offer help, to be able to stay with people, to understand them, to give your perception, your views on what they're doing, and to also receive and share feedbacks. So there are other ways also to understand. So other initiatives, like also what Elyssa mentioned it, so you can contribute. There are at Elastic now we have some ERGs. So there are these groups at your company that you can join and can be part of, you can contribute. So these are things that you can do that I think that at least it might help you as a human being also to understand yourself, and also understand you about your goals also. So for example, if you want a next step as a manager, as a leader, what exactly you want as a next step, but always understanding like the whole process of it, that it can take time, and then understanding that we are not always feeling the same kind of emotion, but you just need to keep going and have a clear vision of what exactly you want, like what you want to achieve. I think it helps. Mentors also help. So I think everything that we share here also. So these are also important.
Amazing. That is such good advice. Thank you, both of you. And I really love the getting involved and finding out who you are and staying true to it. Really good time. Very good timing actually for me to be thinking about them. So I think that's all. Just a quick thing. If anyone listening wanted to reach out to you to ask you questions, is that possible?
Yeah.
Okay. Will
you mean, do you want the channel?
Sorry, no, not on the channel. And I realize I don't have anything prepared, but I just mean I can follow up later with you and get contact details and send them out, but perhaps LinkedIn or something. Anyway, I just wanted to check in with both of you. But look, we're at an hour. Thank you so much, both of you, for your time, investing the time, especially with the time difference and everything. I've loved chatting with you, and thank you from Aaron. I hope you have too. And yeah, enjoy the rest of your day. And for everyone watching, thank you for joining from Ireland, Amsterdam, wherever you are. Hopefully some from the US as well. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Thanks
everyone. Bye.
Bye-bye.